of knowledge and information. In New York, there are so many people that have a great deal of knowledge and information, and that's as it should be because your population is so dense. Meaning by that, again, you've got so many boroughs, and so when you outstrip Chicago, where I come from again, almost 5 to 1. Okay. At the same time, there's so much to know about melanin, so much that we must understand about self. And I understand from the 2 previous lectures that you've had recently, again, Brother Bobby Hemmett, who I know very well. In fact, he's now in Detroit where I was. I set that up for him, by the way. And again, Brother Valentine, who is a local person who you've known. You have excellent researchers in history. You have Ben Yakum and Dr. Clark. You have a number of people. The unique thing that I try to bring is how to. If these things are effective, pardon? If these things are effective. Better now? Okay. Which one now? This one? Okay.
Put it on the table. It's on your jacket.
Whatever? Okay. To be effective, these things must be practiced. And there's so much to know because the school system that we've had in the United States has not told us the truth, has not educated us, but has trained us to stay in a perpetuated state of control. As I stated before, to be a little bit redundant, it would be folly for anyone who is ruling you and making you a slave and doesn't want you to rise up to educate you. It is ridiculous to think you can become educated in this country by going through a school system. You can become trained to fulfill a mission, a call, and a will, to maintain and perpetuate a system that will grind you under and your children under as it is done on infinitum. Training is to be with a wheel that is killing you. Education is to rise above it and throw off the cause and manipulate with your Creator's will on your planet. Therefore, the time for education, any way you can get it now, is long overdue, and hopefully that's what these classes will do. The myth and great need to survive, and better than survive, to live and live free on a planet that is beautiful. We will teach you in there why the planet got clogged over. I'll teach you again what an electromagnetic field is, what an electrical field is, and what a magnetic field is, and teach you why you are unique. You have a gift from the gods that is called melanin. I state you have a gift from the gods that is called melanin. For advanced beings who understand science and genetics, who understand cloning, magnetic propagations, and electrical frequencies, and understand how to radiate an entire planet, how to put up an orbiting satellite called a moon, have been here. And they have set this planet up to stop anybody from getting past a certain frequency while incarnate upon it, unless they do so. This is what they have not told you. You're going to, I'm saying things now, you're going to hear them this year and on. You're going to start hearing things you already know that the publications coming out now that are mind-blowing. As well they should, because they have not even tried to appeal to the mind for 400 years. As we're going back to 332 BC when the Greeks came into Egypt and found the real magic that their cave people had told them about. Then from that time on, they have sought to fight against those with melanin because they realized that the melanin carriers have the gift from the gods. The only difference between human hemoglobin, the oxygenating corpuscle that carries life throughout your organs, throughout your organisms, throughout your glands, and plant chlorophyll, the only difference is one magnesium molecule. The brother told you well. I differ with him in one point, and I'll get to that. And as this energy comes in, per se, to a plant, the plant does what you've been taught in school, a half-truth. It becomes photosynthetic. It is able to take energy in the form of light rays, and there's 7 in one beam of light, 7 different rays, and transfer it into a usable quantity in your body and utilize the energy from it. To do so, the plant is green. In human hemoglobin, it takes the same kind of thing, light that penetrates into the cells photosynthetically, and then it transfers that oxygen through the capillaries of the lung into the body itself. And you are brown. The reason why you are brown is the gift from the gods. Because to withstand a radioactive field that was around our Earth close to 2 million years ago when you were first put here. Did you hear that figure? You had to be turned jet black. That jet blackness has dissipated, and now you can still get the jet black, you can get the brown, you can get tan, you can get yellow, which is the albinism of melanin, and you can even get white, which is complete rejection of the melanin syndrome and getting used to the translucent state which all of us did start with. We've unconditional classes in a way that you will understand it. I'm overviewing it now to tell you a little bit about melanin since Brother Valentine already started it on that plane. I won't go into all of that because the whole thing would keep us here for literally hours upon time. We would run into tomorrow. Once the melanin had been given, the gland to continue its manufacture and usage was called the pineal gland. The pineal gland situates beneath the pituitary gland, and it swings on a little ligamentation like a pine cone. That's why they call it pineal. It looks like an inverted pine cone. It is capable, since it kind of swings and hangs, of metronomic action, back and forth, capable of vibrations and even circular oscillation. Many of you may have remembered where you had done a little trick by holding a pendant. Some of you are into crystals, you may have got a crystal at the end or a magnet there, and you hold it above one hand and you watch it, and sometimes it goes back and forth, other time it goes around in circle. How many have ever played with that, not really knowing what you're doing, but it's like a school experiment? How many have ever done that at all? Well, I did it. You guys have a rich background. Some of you have, some of you haven't. I will show you in the classes how you can even take that kind of energy and take it to the 9th power by this hand class with certain things in mind, transfers of energy from one person to another. How many of you just to kind of show you, not to tease you, to show that there are hands-on actions here, and I do know what I'm talking about. How many remember playing as little kids? You see, because they stopped you from doing it, but you brought it over not only from Tibet, but from inside the earth when you came out. You too came from inside the earth a million years ago. But they showed you a way to survive on the surface and begin to decide surface laws. And they told you that if you could begin to stack your hands, go back in your school kid days now, you may have done that here in PS number 1 or 20 or whatever again. People begin to stack their hands, and then you put another hand, another hand, another hand, another hand. And pretty soon back there, if you notice, and athletic teams still do that. That's not a joke. That's not foolishness. That is concentrating energy so you are one, whoa, and then you go out and you do what you got to do. And for a while, you are God. The point is, the energy flow on the planet and the energy flow within our bodies, because of all the miseducation about what we should eat and when we should sleep and everything else, has made you go to a very low vibration. You come up to that God-like state, and what you can do after that, you can go with the person we do it in our classes too. Go to the four corners of the chair, whoop, the person might go up 15 feet into the air. The person is weightless under that touch when you combine your energy field. Now we have to get way above our planetary, what they call gravitational pull, to experience weightlessness. But you can create that same type of what they call fourth heaven resonance right here on Earth. You see, heaven is not just a state of mind, it's positioned on our planet where only people of certain mental consciousness can exist. And that's what they also didn't want to tell you, because this is the lowest heaven of all, horrid. Horrid. People who have melanin have been told that everything in the body is governed by the brain, and that every reaction in every system is brain governed, and that is wrong. Melanin acts independently. It is capable of instantaneous reaction to energy fields without being processed through any of the neurons, synapses, and dendrite stems of the brain. In other words, it acts as a porcelain carrier. It takes energy, reacts to it, and processes its own information to its nearby cells. That's why you can get again those beautiful moves of the Michael Jordan, those cuts and so by the football players, and those immediate reactions, because you can't stop and think. They have to train people without melanin or with little melanin to react. People with melanin react anyway, because it's like what they showed on the Black Buddha. You have eyes everywhere. You are totally conscious, and you don't wait for brain processing, which slows it down. We're proving to you in the classes because you can then quit playing, and if you have your mind off somewhere, it will take sometimes up to 15 seconds before you feel the pain. And you can even delay that longer if you're trying to offset pain by merely mind control. They don't teach you, though, with melanin, you can make that instantaneous reaction, or you can delay it up to 30 seconds, or you cannot even get to feel it at all by simply using certain ways with melanin and ingesting certain foods and herbals. Melanin is a gift from the gods. With melanin, you can speed up your healing process in half. And if you really get into a strong magnetic field, nothing to do with the electricity, which hurts you in the main, you can even cut that into a third. You can see into the body without using anode-cathode ray bombardment, if you have melanin, by using magnetic fields. One of my favorite people coming in there again, Brother Lily. Brother William Lily. Hello there. Got to say hi to you. This is a man who has helped me a great deal when I come in here to the first time he's attended one of my lectures. I'm very happy about that. Once you begin to use this kind of energy in this fashion again, per se, you can speed up everything that your body does and everything that your brain does. You can even speed up the kind of energy and frequencies that normally you're attuned to that come in to your body and into your brain. This makes you a god. What is a god? I'm not going to go into all of that because that's a long thing, but any race of people or any individual that begins to be the super normal that everyone else is not usually able to do is looked upon as a wondrous avatar or person. People want to worship people. You shouldn't worship any person. Really. No person should be worshipped. No person should be envied. Respected, studied, watched, emulated if what they're doing is good. That's as far as it takes, because you too are God. How do I know it? You have melanin. All the history of the gods that came from various places, advanced scientists, advanced races of all descriptions, from lizard-looking creatures to snake-looking creatures, from little short ones to very tall ones, 30 feet tall. The bones of stuff are still on our earth to prove that they did live here at one time in physical form. All were amazed at the most advanced people in our galaxy, what they have done with a certain issue of people here by giving them melanin, the gift of the gods. That's why you're being buzzed now with all kind of UFOs. And nobody here to talk about the mothership and so, but they got motherships of all descriptions around here, good and bad. Some you don't want to get near. And you want to get within 50 miles of them, if you can avoid. And others, you want to run in and break, and if they weren't around, you'd have been annihilated a long time ago. But we'll see about that. We're talking to break it down in our classes. Government's well aware, well aware. In fact, they've even built about 33 of them themselves, and I don't know how long, because that was last year, that they are now trying to get into photon drive and so. But your gift is that at the highest degree of the cultivation of melanin throughout the pigment of the cells in the dermal, ectodermal, bloodstream, and so each of those glands is then able to reach its highest vibration and reach what is called the astral body. The real mothership. As I said before in one of my lectures, and I had to do this because the brother kind of introduced it on a level that is way out esoterically, and he's right. It's all but one thing I agree with him on. So I have to now kind of change what I'm going to present and back into the actual melanin wars to tie in with what he has started. When the melanin in a form of high energy yield throughout the body vibrates, every cell in every organ vibrates faster. Since melanin is also in the brain vibrates faster. And the frequencies that it can reach are astounding. There are the frequencies that let you seem to be out of your body looking down on it that they all talk about. There are the frequencies that let you sense when something's going to happen to one of your loved ones before it happens, and if it's happening, almost go crazy because you know it's happening even though you're not there. It beats any switch on EACT, Northern Telecom, or Bell Atlantic. It is the instantaneous form of communication. It is the thing that messes up your cable TV when you pass by it. It is the thing that sometimes when you get excited, again, begins to interfere with your TV pattern. And it's a thing that we just don't utilize enough. Why? Because who was going to teach it? The teachers were killed when they brought us out of Mother Africa. The teachers were killed when they attempted to do it here. And even under the Masonic guilds and the ancient ones who tried to at least serve the gods by helping the children of the gods to do what they were killed and tortured as worse as you were, because they didn't want you to know who you were. They wanted to steal the planet, imprison you, and take what the gods possess. Again, I'm talking about God, advanced scientists from many worlds watching a special project here on this planet together. Sanche, all names for this little place. Melanin, when operating well, causes the pituitary gland to release hormones that they haven't even cataloged. They can't, because they have no way to measure the hormonal things, because they're instantaneously there and they're gone. But when they're there, they give you flashes of the cosmic universe. Intuitive flashes in full color of who you have been and what you can be. The same flashes that when you depart this body in your life flashes before you that you go through again. But did they ever teach you that you don't have to die to bring that about? That cosmic wisdom of knowing everything that your ancestors knew is yours every night when you go to sleep, and between 11 and 2:30 when the melanin glands are working at its best. But you must have total darkness. That's why they give you the TVs that never go out. Last night I was in a hotel room. My wife will tell you this. She woke up because something awakened her, and there was a beam of light on the back of my head. And she said, "What in the heck is that?" And she awakened me gently and went and covered the cable receiver, which is actually obviously not a receiver, but a sensor, on the back of my daggone head. Now, I didn't even know what hotel room I thought I was going to myself. Was by accident that this goes to the back of my head? What was it doing with my particular lobe where my psychic equipment is? And by now you should know I am a psychic. Okay, I do channel. But I thought I was under my own control. What the heck was messing with me then? The same thing that messes with all of us all the time when we begin to come into consciousness as to who we are and begin to not talk about it, but do it. Melanin, then, is a gift that separates you from anybody that doesn't have it. People say that black people are ugly. People say that people with melanin are really not desirable. and so on and so forth. Isn't that an interesting photograph? You can't see it from there, some of you, but it shows a very pale woman and a very dark woman. It's the same woman with artificial melanin and in a natural state. And the caption says, "Stay beautiful year round." Keep your melanin with you wherever you go. Be more desirable and wanted. Fulfill your wildest dreams. Wear the colors that you only dreamed of previously. But everybody hates dark people, right? The God loved you previously, pale people, by giving you permanent gland and melanin capability because it understood that the planetary frequency was going to be changed by those who don't like you and wanted to see another race of their own prosper on your planet. And they beat off your overseers because it would have been total bloodshed in the cosmic universe and in your solar system to have fought them longer. And so let them have their sway for a season. They changed a beautiful, oxygenated, and I heard what the brother said, magnetic field into an ozone-infested electromagnetic field and cut down the frequencies and then cut off your 12 basic strands of DNA and then reduced you to 2. And then later on even saw that that one was halved into 2 helixes. This only means this. If you understand anything about computers, anything at all about lines that carry power, if you've got 12 lines of cable bringing a current from one source to wherever you want it, and you've got one cable, one line, bringing you a current from wherever you want to you, which do you think would be more powerful? Should be more powerful if they're both of equal value. Which one? Well, you had 12 lines throughout your body bringing you 12 kinds of energy which you could utilize. And they messed with 11 of them. Cut them, and they're now what they call junk DNA. There is no such thing as junk DNA. Go back and tell your professors I told them that, and they lie. Or they're ignorant, they shouldn't be professors teaching genetics. Junk DNA are those strands that were cut, and when they weave back together again, and they're going to, you will have the power potential of 50 gods, 50 supermen, 50 atlases, and Schwarzeneggers and anything else that you want to have, because the physical body will then follow the astral, etheric, mental, causal, higher forms of energy. And all your dreams will become answered. Don't think that anybody's going to let that happen if they can stop you. And they're going to try to stop you with every means known to this point. It is a war on. The only thing is, you only realized that there were battles. You didn't know you were in a war for this very planet. But many of you now are coming into that consciousness as you should and must. The best from Kemet, land is here in the United States. Survivors of those DNAs, even though you see they killed your ancestors, they couldn't kill the DNA strand that produces those kind of beings. That's why killing is such a stupid, worthless thing. Because all you do is to transform that energy into a higher form that will be able to withstand the thing that took out its ancestor and ancestral life go on. That's what they were trying to tell you when they said study your ancestors, because you are your ancestors. Did you hear me? You don't have to pray to your ancestors. Look at yourself. Every molecule, every DNA, everything that ever was in melanin is never forgotten and transplants itself into another body with the same memory that was locked in the first one. You just have to get the key to know who it is. That's why they don't like to take you into regressions, because all of that comes back. It still comes back sometimes with the drugs, and that's what the people who take the drugs don't understand. They get started with greatness without being able to maintain it, and then since they haven't raised their vibrational rate, the whole thing wears out, and you age overnight, forget what you did know even in this incarnation, become stupid and rancid, and go around having to have other people with less possible intelligence take care of you. That stupidity has got to stop. The potential when you can bring those strands back together is to do everything that the best computer, PC or mainframe, hardware or software can do, and do it 9 times better and quicker, and even have the machines fearing you as they used to. That's what the whole concept of machine manitude that the Algonquins who used to populate your area here were afraid of. They're teaching you now of virtual reality. Virtual reality is your consciousness in just half awakened state being used, where whatever you can imagine you can bring about. That is past the virtual reality. When your melanin is functioning correctly, you can bilocate by being in consciousness one place while being in your body in another. Some people call that state now death. That is real life. That's why they used to have guardians for the body, watchers, and all kinds of other terms that some of you from Louisiana, from Mississippi, from the old country, and with the teachings of the God Radal knew about. And that's what used to run those people, to bilocate and tell you what was happening, and to influence your enemies. And you know your grandmother and grandfather talk about it, and some of you may even practice it now. But practice it in the right, in the full capacity. It's a gift from the God. You learned it. When you don't use the drugs, and I do a lecture called Drugs and the Astral, if ever you want to get a dope head off of his drugs, teach a person with melanin who still knows that he has a soul and a spirit, and she has a soul and a spirit, that they actually can ground their soul on hell. That's the other thing for earth when the non-melanin carriers came. And have to go through this 9 lifetimes to get it straight again. And if they don't believe that, ask them, what do you think they're doing with their life now when they themselves are down deep, that the days are passing by and they're going nowhere except into a total extermination of their physical body. The herbals that you take work differently because they have part of the earth in it, and part of that earth awakens the old earth people who are melanin carriers. And therefore, all of those kingdoms of the plant, the animals, the insects, the birds that fly, and everything that creeps and crawls and moves responds to that vibration because it was a vibration that they were created in also, and they look upon you as God. Gods who don't know who they are. Inasmuch as melanin works on every part of the body and is in every cell of your body, now when the energy field of it changes, it will begin to vibrate faster, and every part of you will begin to quicken in what it's capable of doing. The tests of any kind, the inoculations using basic low vibrations, food that does not have energy stored within it cannot work well for you now because you are in the process of change. I told you in the previous lecture, everybody in here this summer will get one shade darker than they are whether you go out in the sun or not, because the light will be entering into you. The energy will come in whether you close windows or doors or not. And for those who are not used to it, it is absolutely carcinoma, leukemic death that they're asking to go out in the sun this summer. But as the melanin is stepped up, if you must go on in it, you can survive. The point is, again, it will begin to make your head feel as though it is almost wavering. And until you balance out that melanin and get the higher frequencies going, all it will do in some cases is to give headaches. Other cases to make you want to cover the head, but at night when you sleep, each night having been exposed to that, the melanin will go through a metamorphosis, and you will wake up with more insight as to who you are, and certain psychic abilities will begin to form within 48 hours after that exposure. If you adapt to it, the next time out, more happens. And then the DNA and the cells will begin to come together, just like a magnet, because magnetism is what it will awaken in your body. And then they begin to entwine the strands little by little up to the year 1997, when all melanin carriers are supposed to have 10 of their strands back together. Then you will see the difference in having melanin and not having melanin. But time is something that you can control. You can make 1997 1996. You can make 1996 1995 if you're willing to put the discipline necessary to bring it about. I don't even know if it's good to bring it about at this time. I don't know, because it means your loved ones will think you're crazy. People will begin to fear you when things begin to move, or TVs begin to go off, or lights begin to flicker when you pass the top of your head there, or you wake up in the middle of the night and can't sleep because visions and colors are coming to you, or you see objects in the room and you may scream, and they'll say, my God, get rid of this food, what has happened here? They will. Your own best friend there next to you might put a hurt on you. You know it's a job, it's something when you're doing this, you suddenly say, who's that over there? And nobody sees anybody. Oh yeah, you can be careful if you get that far. You know what I'm saying to you. You've already had to hide many of these tendencies, which are already happening. If you're into the wuxia, I'm not talking about the bad stuff now, I'm talking about the natural herbals. Very heavy into those things again, you know what I'm talking about. That is that thing that these dope heads don't understand. They know they lost something, they know it puts them in a different vibrational rate, but they don't understand you can't mix it with drugs and expect it to work. You've got the discipline, and at night, between that 11 o'clock, even if your time zone change here, I guess it would still be for you about 10 o'clock and 3. That's when the melanin and the melatonin, the melanocytes, vibrating through the pineal gland and go throughout your body. That's when you're supposed to have absolute darkness into your meditation. And as I stated before, never go to sleep without meditating about what you want to happen to you. Don't leave all that equipment on, recording, and you don't give a direction. You don't, somebody else will. Use your equipment, or your equipment will use you. It's got to work. Let's hope that you are the one that take it with. Somebody's in your house robbing it, you don't aid them. You turn on the alarm system and work your apparatus for the set. Am I wrong in saying it? I mean, there's something I'm saying that doesn't make sense. Whether you believe it or not, at least look at the possible logic for this. Because you haven't known before who you were, but thought you were that which you ought to be, you have been hated by those who weren't. I don't need to go back over there again, do I? No, I don't, because you just want to feel good again. For too long, people have been making you feel good, so if you never work at staying good, and you may be gooder than they thought, or not as good as they thought, and you're living again on the rhetoric of it. I want you to begin to work at it. I want to inspire you, but I want you to work like I must work, and everyone must work, because it's not going to just be big-handed over to you again. If you're not ready for it, it's just like giving a loaded gun to a 3-year-old. Enough fish to pull the trigger, and not enough fish to know any because it's once it's done. The government of not just the United States, but I want to stay with this one for right now because it's where we live. That about the thing called AIDS, and I've got a whole thing on AIDS, what it is, what it isn't, and and a whole tape on AIDS the update. We're not going to go through an AIDS lecture. I'm not teasing you as some of you I think that mentioned that. Mentioning things and don't go far enough. These are all separate things. This is about melanin. So I'm telling you many of the things that are done. What I'm saying to you now is this government produced AIDS. And you already know that. But the reason why they produced AIDS through Helen Lack, and H spell was Helen Lack, V was for virus, a black woman who died of cervical cancer in 1951, and they took the melanated cancer cells all over, and that's why the AIDS virus had an affinity for melanin. Okay? What they wanted to do was to work on the substance called melanin, and they knew if they could attack melanin, everything else on the planet was susceptible, including the plants, because they produce melanin in the form of green chlorophyll. If you spend enough time in a cave or in a well or in darkness and you have melanin, you first will turn icy, and then you begin to turn greenish blue. People with little melanin will turn very pale and icy and lose the possibility of melanin at all and become very pale or albino, cut off from the ultraviolet rays of our sun. But what they haven't told you is that Earth has another sun. Do you hear me? Deep inside the Earth is another sun which radiates and energizes plants from underneath, and melanin carries from underneath, so they can do anything they want to one sun, you can go to the other sun, so when they block out the sun soon, all that's going to do is intensify your melanin carrying ability, because the inner Earth sun, which they dare not tell you about, will still take over. Nature, through the Creator's first cause pride, does not play. Knows full well what she is about, and knows that the order for this little planet has got to change now. AIDS was supposed to take out melanin carriers. AIDS caused your immune system to kick in even further and brought about the very thing that they didn't want. It always works like that. AIDS mutated and began to attack the very thing that they tried to get it not to do, because it met with another strand and strain, and began to attack people without melanin. Whole lecture I do on melanin. The church, because in your flyer you found it said AIDS and the government is robbed the church and you. The church people in general didn't understand this. And they began to call and say AIDS is a thing that in his righteousness the Lord God is going to invoke to wipe out evil doers. Well, if the Lord God would just wipe out evil doers, we would be so happy we'd be ashamed, and I'd be all for AIDS. On the job they said, we shall not pay you because you are a walking, cancerous, potential, disease-bringing organism, and we won't be able to work because if you come around, you give us AIDS. So your money supply was threatened. Your source of income through your JOB was threatened. But notice how they've even backed off of that now. In the NBA, where they pay fabulous salaries to fabulous black men, if you got one cut, your whole career was threatened. Now they put a Band-Aid on it, stop it from bleeding, and you go right back on and do what you're supposed to do. And I understand why Magic Johnson is so frustrated, because he never did stop playing ball anyway. He believes the lie. He believes the hype. He believes the great fight coach. Now, since the nation and others such as myself, through tapes, and I didn't talk to him directly, tapes they tried to send, people tried to get to him and say, listen, brother, this is the truth. That's when he got so mad and got off all the government panels about AIDS and all the rest of the things, and went on back out there now and doing his thing. They made him ashamed for being a man. And what man hasn't had two women at one time, even if it was only for an hour, in his mind? He didn't rape those women wanted him because he was a man's man, and that's just the nature of things. Don't you also feel that way? We listen to such foolishness. In mother country, they have many wives if they can't afford them, and if the women want to stay there. There are places where women have many men if they want to spend their energies that way. The whole point is, let's talk about the reality of what they were saying there and not about the foolishness of what they were saying there. AIDS attacked them worse than it did us if we had melanin. And it was not why it was created. AIDS in youth. You've noticed that even though you hear constantly bombarding what AIDS can do to you, there doesn't seem to be an innate fear that I know, because you walk around, you still kiss, you still hold, you still eat anywhere. I see the goodies up and down the street. They could all have AIDS in their food. You don't stop to ask that, do you? You say, how much is it? That is it good. Where am I lying, folks? I don't lie. I make you think. I hope. When this deadly virus, and they didn't know where it came from, and they didn't know anything about it, was going to wipe out half the human race and everything else again, was released. Everybody was paying for sex for a while, and everybody didn't want to go to work, and they dare not get cut, and they didn't want to kiss. And then they told people, that's okay now. They've now done further studies, and they know that it's only sexually transferable. And again, if you watch and have safe sex by wearing some kind of protection, it's going to be all right. That's not what they said to begin with. And if they didn't know what they were talking about in the beginning, why did they let loose all of this false information and scare people half to death and stress out the nervous system and the immune system and give you something else to get scared about as though it's living among pathological creatures isn't enough. When the body is in disharmony, anything can attack the immune system, and usually will. That's why stress is probably worse than the AIDS virus itself. And fear is worse than both of them put together. Because when you live in fear, you can't open yourself to melanated light. You can't sleep well to let the pineal gland kick in and let your immune system kick in. You can't worry because you can't feel good because you're constantly tired and worried, and stress alone will bring you any disease that you want. And in fact, if you think about and feel something long enough anyway, you will bring it to you, the very thing that you fear. Whereas love and relaxation will also bring to you. That's what we also teach in our classes, the same thing that you want. Because whatever your mind sees and knows, and you can visualize and turn that second strand that try to unite and bring about, it will come to you. Anything you want, you can have if you think about it long enough and really, really want it. You'd be surprised. We half and 1/4 want things because we don't know what we're going to do with it if we had it, but we really don't think we're ready for it, and that right there means you're not going to get it. You must make a change. You must make a change. Because the planet is undergoing a change. And if you don't change, you will go with everybody else that the planet is now rejecting. So you must make a change to be an Earthian, a Tiarian, a Shonite. Depth due to dilatation, the tip of the iceberg, also on your flag. Dilantin, how many of you are aware of dilantin, by the way? Okay. They kind of put that undercover now. Before all state institutions in every one of the 64 principal cities in the United States that have a high melanin population were supposed to be offered again dilantin to mothers, especially who are going to give birth. The whole thing about dilantin, it cuts short the production of melanin potential in the baby by putting a mother's foreskin or so over the womb. It would cloak it or make it more dense, so it could not become photosynthetic and melanated, especially in that first trimester, which takes you away from becoming a snake person and an amphibian and becoming a more humanoid, now fit to earth. In that first 3 months, everybody looks like a tadpole, whizzes around like some kind of a dinosaur, and can even come out at that time looking like a crocodile or something else. And then through metamorphosis, and because the gestation period is 9, not 3, it goes through that phase, but it lets you know at one time the kind of body that you have here on this planet. It doesn't lie. If you're born in that first 3 months, you'd be born looking like a snake or an alligator or an amphibian. You got it? Go check your text out. When the womb can become full of ultraviolet light, but with the inner light particle of melanin taking in the light that comes from the earth, it balances out and the fetus develops faster.